A very special Family Ties.
Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to another episode of Battle of the Network shows. This is Mike. I'm here with Rick, and today we're going to be talking about an episode of Family Ties.
Yes, a very special episode, a very good episode, and one with a special guest star. So I think that checks about all the boxes, and I think this is going to be a good one. So,
yeah,
you ready to get into it?
Sure.
Okay.
Do we need to tell people about Family Ties, or is that in your?
I guess we could start off talking a little bit about Family Ties.
Yeah.
I think one of the iconic shows of the 1980s. It's fair to say.
I think so.
It was on NBC, I think about 6 years or so, and Gary David Goldberg was the creator and executive producer of it. And the conceit of the show was originally that you had these liberal hippie parents who, much to their horror, wound up having a teenage son who was ultra-conservative and sort of like on the opposite of everything that they stood for when they were protesting back in their days in the 60s.
Yeah, very pro-Reagan and pro-money.
Right. Very materialistic, very bright kid. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you got Stephen and Elisa, the parents, Michael Gross and Meredith Baxter Burney, a couple of showbiz veterans that were in there. And originally, I guess the legend is that originally the show was supposed to be their show, but then their oldest son, Alex, played by Michael J. Fox, he became the breakout star very quickly, and soon the show shifted to him and away from the parents. But apparently there wasn't any enduring friction, and the show seemed to transition pretty smoothly into being more about the kids, and specifically Michael J. Fox and his Alex character. There was also Justine Bateman played middle child Mallory, who was a teenage fashion-obsessed daughter, not too bright, shall we say, and Jennifer, the youngest, Tina Yothers, was, I don't know, how would you describe her? I guess she was very smart.
Very smart, I think, in the early years, a tomboy.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Had a little bit of a acerbic wit.
Yes, as youngest children often do in sitcoms. Yeah. And she was sort of like maybe one of the more awkward ones, and then eventually by the time the show ended, they were portraying her as being as smart as Alex, arguably. Right. And even Mallory eventually became like smart in her own way, so really it was like all the kids were super geniuses by the end. But
and by the end they had another kid.
Yes, who I perhaps deliberately left out of that introduction there. But yes, they had little Andy, who won hearts all over the country. But
by aging 5 years in one summer.
Yes. Yeah. So that was kind of like a jump the shark moment, one could argue.
Yeah.
But it was a successful show actually for about a couple of years. But I think one thing that is interesting to think about, as popular as I thought Family Ties was growing up, and I should say I think one of the reasons I knew Family Ties so well, it was not because I was watching it in its like original airing form, but NBC showed reruns of it in weekday mornings, and I think that's where I watched a lot of the episodes, like maybe in summertime at like 10 or 10:30 or whatever, seeing those reruns being shown like 5 times a week. But Family Ties was really huge when it was behind the Cosby Show for a couple of years on Thursday nights. But that was only, I think, 2 or 3 seasons. The rest of the time it started on Wednesdays after Facts of Life, which, regardless of what you might say about Facts of Life, it was no Cosby Show.
Right.
And then it was huge when it was behind the Cosby Show, which was the number one show in the country. And then when it moved to Sundays, the ratings went back down. So Family Ties was kind of a middle-of-the-pack show, except for when it was directly following the number one show in the country. And Family Ties never seems to really go away. It's been on a lot of streaming services and it's been in syndication, but I don't think it ever is a big hit in syndication because wherever it goes in reruns, even on channels like Nick at Night, it doesn't seem to stay very long. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's too much of a product of its time. Maybe it was never really as big as I thought it was, but I watched a lot when I was a kid and I really enjoyed it.
And it might have seemed big because Michael J. Fox was big.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Launched him.
Right. He eventually became, a big movie actor and
Yeah.
At least in one franchise, he was a superstar. If you consider the Back to the Future movies, and now he's a beloved icon. And he really was a big part of the show, and really the main reason worth watching it.
Yeah. And I would say the show has a few things that this episode has, like all of them. But its best qualities that, I mean, when it's funny, it's pretty funny. And, like, of course, he has great timing. And I think Michael Gross is really good. And Meredith Baxter Burney's good, too. You know, the three leads are definitely on their game. But then it could also be serious.
Yes.
And for the most part, do that reasonably well.
Yeah. And I think, like, a lot of the humor of the show was sort of a predictable set-up punchline joke kind of humor. It didn't really surprise me very often.
Yeah.
It's not an unconventional show at all, but like you said, like with the timing and the performances of the actors, usually what they were trying to do, they did it pretty well. So
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't you tell us about today's episode?
yeah, the episode we're looking at is from season 2. It's called Say Uncle. It originally aired January 26, 1984, which may be the most 1980s of all the years of the 1980s. And let's go into it. So as the episode starts, Alex and Mallory are going crazy as youngest sister Jennifer, off camera, practices her clarinet. Elise is a little bit more tolerant, but when Jen comes into the kitchen and asks if Uncle Ned has arrived yet, Alex encourages her to practice outside, and Mom doesn't really object. After establishing the clarinet, which becomes a recurring gag, Alex gets into the exposition part of the scene, asking Mom if she thinks Uncle Ned will stay a while this time. Elise says, "The only thing we can predict about my brother is he is unpredictable. Even that we can't be sure about." A perfect summary of Ned's character for those who didn't see Season 1's epic two-parter The Fugitive, and also a good example of the show's kind of humor. Alex hopes Dad Steven can get Ned the open job at his public broadcasting station, and that Ned will then settle down. In fact, Alex has been pestering his dad about the job, even wallpapering the parents' bedroom with Ned's resume. When Steve comes home, Elise pesters Steve, who says he got Ned an interview for a program consultant position with Mr. Wirtz. Alex helpfully explains that while Ned did embezzle $4.5 million from his last job as vice president of a major corporation, he only did it to torpedo a merger that would have cost many jobs. And Rick's note here, would Milton Friedman approve of Alex's spin on this? Seems a little uncharacteristic. But Alex does respect Ned because he gave up his job for something he believed. Then Ned Donnelly, played by special guest star Tom Hanks, enters cracking wise, and we're off to the races. He does a little bit of business with everyone in the family, including singing a few bars of Uptown Girl to Mallory, and says, "Let's celebrate. Alex, you got any beers?" Cut to the family playing Trivial Pursuit. Ned is still joking, saying when he lands on geography that it's one of his 6 best categories. Attention, 1980s lovers. And soon asks for another beer. As the game breaks up, Elise asks Ned if it's time to get a job, and Ned asks, "Who will hire me?" Steve mentions the job interview, and Ned thanks him by kissing him on both cheeks and asking him for more beer. Dun dun dun. Later that night in the kitchen, Ned sits drinking alone at the table when Alex, cramming for an econ final, comes downstairs. Ned asks Alex if he wants to go on a beer run, but it's after 2 o'clock, so Ned raids the pantry and emerges with a bottle of vanilla extract, which he chugs. A horrified Alex can't believe it. "You just drank a whole bottle of vanilla extract." Ned replies, "I'm sorry, did you want some?" Tension grows between the two, with a drunk Ned getting nasty. As Alex recoils, Ned tells him, "You think I am drunk? Why shouldn't I be?" Eventually, Ned yells at his disillusioned nephew, "Will you get out of here, you punk? Just get out of here." In the morning, Ned is chipper again, but Alex is upset. When he tries to tell his mom Ned has a problem, she says she doesn't see it, that Ned was always a drinker in high school but could handle it. Privately, though, she does talk to Ned after he finds an airline bottle of vodka and adds it to his orange juice. Ned says he can stop any time he wants to. Elise asks him to, and he says okay. Time then for the job interview at the station. Steven is sitting in, which seems odd, like Ned's his child or something, and Mr. Wirtz asks Ned to explain what he calls his difficulties with the embezzlements at Cintron. Ned says he will explain it, but in song, and pulls out Jen's clarinet. A phone call interrupts them, and a bewildered Steve asks Ned what's going on while Wirtz answers the call. Ned says he's just nervous, but as the interview resumes, he gets even goofier, acting like he and Wirtz are the ones interviewing Steven. He proceeds to make a mockery of the whole interview and makes a dramatic but funny exit from the room. Back at the Keaton residence, Steven tells Alex and Elise what happened. "That wasn't a guy who had a few too many," he says. "What I saw was a sick, self-destructive individual." Yeah, Steven, how dare he threaten the sanctity of a program consultant job at a public television station? Steven suggests AA just before Ned walks in holding a bottle of champagne. He's joking as usual, but he's also blotto again. Alex scolds him for blowing the interview, but Ned says he never had a chance and talks about being washed up before the age of 30. Olga Korbut, the Mouseketeers, and Ned Donnelly. Attention baby boomers and 1970s lovers with those references. Then it gets really dramatic. Ned denies any problem and Steve says, "You're sick and you have a disease. If you don't do something about it, it's going to kill you." Ned responds, "I don't care." Alex tries to encourage his hero, showing him saved newspaper clippings of achievements like his promotion and speaking at the World Bank. Alex uses them as motivation, he says, when he thinks he can achieve something. But Ned snatches them away and starts throwing them in the fireplace. Alex tries to stop him, and Ned spins around and smacks his own hand into his other hand. Somehow, Alex recoils, apparently from the shock waves generated in the air, and reels back to the couch as if he were hit. Stephen says, "What the hell are you doing?" A chastened Ned can only say, "I don't know." Stephen lays down the law. "All right, Ned, this is it. It's over. Right now, either you get some help, or you get the hell out of my house." A crying Ned says, "I hit Alex! I hit Alex!" So that's what happened. Got it. Ned picks up the phone calling AA and asks if they want to buy a newspaper subscription. It's actually a pretty good joke, but he quickly settles down and says he has a problem and needs help as the shaken Keatons watch in the background. The end of a very special episode of Family Ties.
Amazing Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom Hanks was great.
I meant your impression, but...
Oh. Why, thank you. I could work on it a little bit, but yes.
Yeah, he's the star of this episode.
He is, and as I alluded to, he was actually in a first season episode where all this stuff about the embezzlement, it was a two-parter. He was actually on the lam, and that was when we first met Elise's brother, Ned, and he made a return appearance in this one, and I'm glad he did.
Yeah, he was great in those episodes, too. Mm-hmm. But we had no indication of his drinking problem then. But he was on the lam. His life hadn't collapsed yet. It was mid-collapse.
Right. He's clearly self-loathing and self-doubting at this point, which I guess explains, his sort of descent into, chugging whole bottles of vanilla extract right in the Keaton's kitchen in front of his nephew. But
yeah, he also poured himself a glass of maraschino cherries.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And he was a little offended that Alex wouldn't drink with him.
Right. But I like when, as soon as he shows up, I like both that Hanks and the character are just on.
Yeah, exactly.
He's making jokes. He's
right, and that's pretty much how he was in the other episode too. That's just who Uncle Ned is.
Right. So no wonder everyone's looking forward to him showing up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Alex's idol, but he's a goofball. He's fun.
Yeah.
He's comedy Tom Hanks.
Yeah, it's an event when he shows up, and literally just about everything he says is some kind of joke.
Yeah.
Which maybe it gets wearying. If you're with him 24/7,
right?
Because he's never down, but he seems like he's a lot of fun to be around. I mean, in my little summary of the episode, I only maybe touched on a few of the things he says, but really just about every line that Tom Hanks says is pretty funny, or at least it's recognizably funny enough, and the way he does it that amuses me. So
yeah, except for when he gets mean.
Yeah, that's when he calls Alex a punk. That was kind of shocking, actually.
That scene is interesting and maybe accurate to some alcoholic's behavior, in that he's the scene and his behavior goes back and forth between funny and him being kind of just mean to Alex.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's very belligerent, and he when he finds out that Alex is cramming for an econ final, he asks Alex, if he wants some help, and when Alex says, kind of says no, he can handle it on his own, then Ned gets offended,
right,
and thinks that Alex is. He instantly turns it into, he thinks that Alex is rejecting him, and thinks that Ned doesn't know his stuff anymore, and all this. So, yeah, that does turn pretty quickly. I guess not everything Tom Hanks does is totally funny, but some of the things that he does that aren't funny are kind of funny, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I also, I think my favorite scene for him is the job interview.
Yeah, the job interview is...
Because it's like a Marx Brothers
thing. I was just going to say that it's totally like a Marx Brothers scene. It's total anarchy.
Right.
And really you'd have to see it. It's hard to do it justice by describing it, but...
Yeah, but it has that quick pace and...
Right.
weird jokes, so one of the jokes before the interview, Mallory and the other sister... Jennifer.
Poor teeny others, destined to be the other sister for the rest of her life.
Give him a pair of socks. They each give him a sock. Mm-hmm. So he shows up at the interview, and they're for the interview, and at some point you see his his legs and he's not wearing socks. And the Mr. Wirtz comments on that. And he's like, "Oh, I've got him right here," and pulls him out of his pocket.
Yeah.
And then somehow ends up crawling under the desk and like saying Mr. Wirtz doesn't have socks on. And
Right.
then Mr. Wirtz says, "Yes, I do." And he's like, "Well, then whose feet are these?" And,
Right, yeah. And when he says it, like, when he says these things, like, during that interview, he's, like, totally committed. It's like he's in character, but he's not, he doesn't give the impression that he's, like, purposely mocking it. He gives the impression that, like, a character that's actually believes what he's saying.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, which, like, when he pulls out that clarinet when he says he's going to explain it in song, that's when as he starts to play it, the phone rings, and then he gets sort of takes the clarinet and gives it a look like
it can't, yeah.
Right, and it's just hilarious the way he does it. It's totally like the look in his face is just totally that of a man who's surprised, just not totally shocked, but just that's interesting, and kind of looking it over to see what happened there, and that scene is a riot.
Yeah, and he does at some point. He said, "Well, I brought the clarinet. I thought it'd break the ice or something." And Steven, who's really not funny in this episode at all,
no,
is even there. Just get rid of it.
Yeah, and actually, might I say that while I appreciate you complimenting my Tom Hanks, I was kind of thinking that my Michael Gross was really the real moneymaker in this podcast. But
you did nail his earnestness.
Yeah, he's good at giving those earnest speeches, and he has about 2 or 3 of those lines in this one.
Yeah,
but he's totally fed up. But although you kind of get the impression that it's not so much concern for Ned, but just concerned that he made a mockery of that interview, which is understandable because I don't know what kind of personal capital Steven put on the line. He did say he pulled a few strings.
Right.
Because the job interview or the posting had closed like a few days ago, but to get this program consultant job, he pulled a few strings. So Steven put his A double crooked letter on the line, and I can't blame him, I guess, for being upset that Ned did that.
Well, Columbus, Ohio PBS is known for being just a job magnet.
Yes.
People want a job there.
Exactly.
There are very few jobs, but, if you burn bridges there, forget going to PBS in Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly.
Toledo or,
right.
Anywhere. It's done.
Yeah.
You're going to have to switch to public radio.
Yeah. It's all over for you. And I guess Mr. Wirtz, I'm not sure exactly what Mr. Wirtz's role is. He's a pretty good stuffed shirt kind of guy in this.
Yeah.
But Steven, I thought, was like pretty much the man that ran the station, I thought. So I'm not sure what Mr. Wirtz's role is, and I'm very curious about what Tom Hanks would be doing as a program consultant.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
At a local PBS station.
Would be buying programs?
Maybe advising them on what to get. And,
yeah.
Or maybe it's like developing local programming that the
Right.
station would produce.
Yeah.
But I imagine Ned would have been pretty good at it, too.
I think so. I mean, he was good at everything he did.
He was.
And he probably wouldn't have had, like, the moral problems, the ethical problems. So in the original two-parter, well, you mentioned it anyway, but he embezzled all this money from it, but it was to protect jobs at a company they'd bought. They're basically a sort of predatory buyer of other companies.
Yes, and they did that to make money.
Yeah.
Which is why I was a little surprised that Alex,
Alex is very
so
on his side of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess Alex is a supply side economist with a heart of gold, I guess, because I mean, he never was a heartless guy.
Right.
But I mean, that was kind of an example of what big companies do.
Yeah, and especially that was like happening a lot at that time.
Right.
One of those sort of iconic '80s things.
Yeah. So for Alex to so unabashedly support that, I can understand sticking by your uncle, but that seems a little out of character to me. But
yeah. Yeah, I think Uncle Milty would have been
yeah
frowned upon that.
I agree. But I guess Uncle Ned takes precedence, and as we said, he's great. And this was, this was before megastar Tom Hanks. This is kind of like TV era Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But I mean, you watch this episode and you just kind of remind yourself, or you're reminded of why everybody loves Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
It's this kind of thing, watching him do this and bosom buddies and that kind of thing, and his his comedies and everything. I mean, he was great. He's very likable even when he's doing kind of like jerky things as this physically abusive, raging alcoholic. He's still likable.
Right. It makes it a little hard for for you to want him to get sober.
Yeah. Wait, it does?
Well, I feel like Uncle Ned, as much of a joker as he wouldn't have gone into that job interview quite that way if he weren't also hammered.
I see what you're saying. Yes, I think even if he weren't drinking, Ned would probably be always joking around and be like a fun guy to be around.
Yeah.
But he probably wouldn't self-sabotage a job interview by
Right, and
crawling
embarrass.
under the table and checking out a guy's footwear.
Right. Yeah. So of course you do want him to, because that's not a good thing to be an alcoholic. It's bad he's hurting his family.
Well,
And he didn't hurt Jennifer or Mallory.
he didn't.
They
but-
seem oblivious to.
Yeah, they were not. Other than providing those like Argyle socks, they weren't big factors. And Jennifer's
Yeah.
clarinet, which
Jennifer's, man, that
ugh,
they went to that well
yeah.
like 5 times.
Yeah, they did one of the visual gags where I guess Ned asked Jennifer if she's wants to play something for him, and like the rest of the family is behind him. And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
this-
That was great though. Yeah, like she asks, "Can I play
Oh,
something?"
okay, yeah,
And then they're positioned so she can't see them, and they're all waving off, and then she turns around and they're all
yeah. They all act like they're
pretending to just doing business.
yeah. Fix
And-
someone's tie, fix Alex's
Well,
tie.
that's my
Dustin-
favorite one. Is like Alex is adjusting his tie,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
a kind of standard Michael J. Fox
Right.
thing. But then Elise starts helping him adjust his tie.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, he's gonna be looking dapper.
Yeah,
That's for sure. But yeah, I think this is probably one of my favorite guest star spots of any show in the 1980s. I mean, it seems like looking back at Family Ties now, I think you would almost think that Tom Hanks was in more episodes than he actually was, because I think this was the only other time he was in there. He was in that two-parter and this one. So really, 2 episodes, maybe 3 if you count the two-parters too. But he made like a huge impact. So
Yeah.
I bet like a lot of people that watch Family Ties regularly, they would remember the Tom Hanks episodes as some of the more memorable ones, even over some of like the very special ones that they had later on.
right. Or any of the Skippy ones.
Yes. Well, anytime Skippy comes on, of course, it's an event in itself, but
Right.
in a different sort of way.
Yeah.
Do you think this was a good showcase for Michael J. Fox? He didn't.
He didn't get to be funny as much.
Right. It was interesting. Like he was sort of just like. I don't want to say it wasn't exactly like a prop for the Ned character, but he was. He was sort of reacting to him and
Yeah,
sort of
and-
doing like little exposition at the beginning. And yeah, he didn't. He definitely kind of.
I think the two-parter he got to do more funny stuff.
Right.
Like there's a whole thing where they go to the airport together and he's trying to lie and isn't very good at it.
Yeah.
It definitely seemed like he was more the straight man, but you get to show some of his dramatic chops that would show up later on some of those other special episodes you mentioned. And
Yes.
there was one joke that I thought was kind of terrible that involved him. Like he was telling his mom, like, I think Uncle Ned's got a drinking problem. And she's like, "Oh, don't get dramatic." And then he says something incredibly
Yeah.
melodramatic.
Why, in the name of God's green earth, do you always, time after time,
Yeah.
say that I'm always too dramatic about everything? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, okay, I understand, but not this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he just, but that's what I was going to say is that this episode kind of just in its very specialness, but the way it was played too, felt like kind of like Norman Lear had shown up and written the episode.
Interesting.
Like it had a lot of those sort of fades, like cut to where the commercial would be like on a dramatic moment, quiet
yeah.
moment, and like the whole scene at the end, the audience is very quiet and. It certainly doesn't end on a joke. It ends on, well, he makes one joke, but
Right. Just kind of like a freeze frame
Yeah.
of Ned holding that phone and, as he's going to make that call. Yeah.
yeah, which I don't remember Family Ties feeling that way usually, but this is a special episode.
Yeah, I think maybe in the very special episodes, but yeah, they can't all be very special episodes
No.
as much as we joke about it. And this was definitely one of them. So yeah, this episode definitely did have a different feel to it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think it definitely worked, and it's just kind of cool seeing Michael J. Fox and Tom Hanks together, even if, like you say,
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox is kind of more of the straight man.
yeah.
But but he is very good. I mean, whether he's even that joke you were talking about, where he sort of spews out that dialogue that's just sort of jokey dialogue just for the sake of being jokey.
Yeah.
He pulls it off pretty convincingly, I think.
Yeah. It's just it was more the writing. Than...
Yeah, I mean, you'd never it's sort of ridiculous. It really is ridiculous that he says it, but he doesn't sandbag the line or anything. He commits to it, and
yeah,
he's good. And it's kind of an interesting thing that, like, I don't know, a lot of people might know this, some might not, but supposedly, again, the legend has it that NBC didn't want him, or Brandon Tartikoff, who was running NBC at the time, didn't want Michael J. Fox in the role. He rejected him because he said, and he supposedly said something like, "Well, nobody's ever gonna see him in a lunchbox." And then he eventually relented, and the show went on to become successful. And the story has it that eventually Gary David Goldberg or somebody sent Brandon Tartikoff the Family Ties lunchbox with, of course, Alex Keaton, Michael J. Fox plastered on the front of it. So he turned out to be wrong about that, and much to everyone's enjoyment that watched the show.
I didn't know there was a Family Ties lunchbox.
Well, I never had one.
I assumed it was going to be a Back to the Future lunchbox.
Oh, maybe it was a Back to the Future lunchbox.
I mean, that would make more sense, but maybe there was a Family Ties lunchbounchbox.
Well, there were a lot of lunchboxes back then.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have wanted to have been the kid with the Family Ties lunchbox.
You don't think you don't think that would have gone over at PS 42 elementary or whatever?
It doesn't seem like it.
Walking in with a Family Ties lunchbox.
Somebody's got their superhero one and their Star Wars and whatever, those types things, and then but he's got a Family Ties. I mean, what would be on the Family Ties lunchbox? So you got the front panel would probably be like the painting from the opening credits.
Right, yeah.
The family.
How about like a musical lunchbox where every time you open the lunchbox, the theme song would start playing?
I can see that because it's still playing in my head.
Yeah.
A day after watching this episode.
Right, yeah. Definitely not one of the harder edge theme songs in sitcom history, but a memorable one nevertheless. But yeah, I could see a kid, sitting down for his PB&J and opening up the lunchbox, and that music starts playing, and you don't think all the kids would flock over to his table to get an earful of that?
They would flock over his table for something.
Kid might get a fistful of something.
Yeah.
That's a sad commentary on elementary school youth, I gotta say.
Now, if it came with a comedy orange juice glass, which they didn't use in the episode, I gotta say, but as you know, I'm obsessed with the way Michael J. Fox in particular uses orange juice.
Yes,
orange juice glass to take a pause before delivering a punchline.
Yeah.
As a timing device.
Yes, he's a master at wielding a glass, or even when he's not necessarily direct drinking from it, the way he'll hold it and position it. I mean, yes, that's one of his best things.
It is. And I mean, in this episode, he wasn't making a sandwich. That was pretty fun too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was Ned that was drinking the orange juice and shoving emptying a bottle of vodka into it. So.
That's right. After he addressed it. He had a conversation with the bottle of vodka.
Oh, yeah. It was after he directly addressed the bottle of vodka.
Now, let's go back to the bottle of vanilla.
Okay.
What's up with that? I know he was searching for any sort of alcohol content. Yeah. I don't think vanilla has any alcohol content. It's just vanilla.
Vanilla extract is like 0.00001%.
Maybe it does. I mean, if it weren't behind this table, I could walk over. Check the bottle of vanilla app.
Yeah, you're saving that for after this. I know you're going to go over and chug a bottle. At least you're professional enough not to do it while we're recording, but gee.
I can see it giving you some weird buzz or something, though. Just like because it's vanilla, it has that aromatic element to it.
So do you think that was him hitting bottom, or was it the cherries?
I think the vanilla was.
Yeah, the cherries.
The cherries were the cherry on the bottom of the bottom.
Yeah.
But the visual of the cherry, that was just a nice visual gag of him dumping basically an entire jar of. I mean, there's no point in it.
Right.
Pouring them into a glass.
Yeah.
Like a pint glass.
Yeah, that's.
I also wanted to. I couldn't. I I wanted to be able to find out exactly what brand of made-up beer they had.
Ah, yeah, good point. Were you able to
No.
to spy anything?
It just said, I saw beer, and I think there was a word over it,
Uh,
and then it had a distinctive, like, checkerboard pattern.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it was some domestic beer, probably, like, which the Keatons had beer in their on hand. They
did.
They had at least a 6-pack, we know.
They had to have had more than a 6-pack. Because
For the way Ned was.
so Alex took out the 6-pack to give him one, and he handed him back one and took 5.
Right, yeah. Yeah, right off the bat. That's
And
when
then
he first got there. Yeah.
Later, Alex was the beer server, but he never had one.
Yeah, that was another one of his roles in this episode, was fetching beer. Alex,
Yeah.
how about grabbing a couple beers, and even one to Steven? Yeah, I'll have one too, Alex. So,
Yeah. Yeah, Steven likes a beer every now and then.
Sure.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, a guy can enjoy a drink while he's playing some Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of that PBS stress.
You'd kind of think a PBS station manager might be drinking like an imported beer. I guess nowadays you'd think that he'd be like a microbrewery guy, I would suspect. But
Yeah, but they had 3 kids.
no, that's true.
I mean, his wife is an architect.
Yeah.
Apparently not one that makes a ton of money.
Well, considering she barely works,
yeah.
barely ever see her at work. She must be one of those, like a freelance architect.
Freelance, yeah.
Picks up some gigs here and there.
Freelance architect.
But, yeah.
I don't know why I'm laughing at that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. But maybe I shouldn't be judging, I don't mean to judge architects, but I was kind of judging the Keatons. I'm surprised that they would have multiple 6-packs of domestic beer in their fridge, unless they knew that they had to stock their fridge because Ned was coming and he's a drinker.
That could be.
Elise does say he was always a drinker in high school, but he could handle it. So
Yeah. But it could be, like, all of this stuff, too, is, to me, is evidence of something that's interesting about them, is that even though they're these hippies, they do, I mean, they're not politically conservative. They're not conservative, but they're not still hippies.
yeah, they're professionals and they've
Like-
bought into the system to a certain degree.
Yeah, like a hippie wouldn't have said, clean up or get the hell out of my house.
Yeah.
He would have said,
Yeah. Well, now
I don't know. I'm judging hippies now.
we're judging everybody.
We are.
This is a very special episode of Bet All the Network shows.
Yeah,
But now, to his credit, though, Steven does say that he has a disease, and they make a point to get that in there, that you have a disease, and if you don't do something about it, it's going to kill you.
That's right.
So Steven acknowledges that it's a problem. He's not really directly blaming Ned for it.
Yeah,
So there's that.
that's right.
But he's definitely not laissez-faire.
He's
about
not going
the
to put
whole,
up with someone using a super clap to throw his son
to
across
wound
a
his
room.
son. And that's another thing I like about that. That entire bit is my favorite part of the whole
I know.
episode. Is you can clearly tell just now how animated I'm getting, but the way Alex is just kind of like he sells it believably. He just kind of goes over on the couch and puts he's kind of spends most of the rest of the scene with his hands on his head and kind of leaning his head back every now and then, and clearly anguished. And Elise comes over and tries to comfort him, and he just kind of like, he doesn't really recoil from her, but you can tell he's like still edgy and everything. He just can't believe that his uncle like clapped his hands right in front of him like that. It's pretty.
I guess I didn't notice the stunt aspect of.
I may be exaggerating it a bit.
Because Michael J. Fox throws himself backwards across the room.
Yeah, it's one. Okay, if we assume that it's an actual legitimate punch, and I'll stop being a wise guy about it. It's one heck of a shot.
It is.
I mean, granted, you could say Alex was a little off balance because they were struggling over the clippings, but still,
And he's a little guy.
He is. He flies back. I mean, Tom Hanks has a pretty good right-hand backhand slap or whatever it is.
Right.
Open hand slap. And that was the last straw.
Yeah.
That did it for Steven. You don't hit his son in
No.
his house.
Of course not. And and then we got Tom Hanks crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hit Alex. There's no crying in baseball, but there is crying in Family Ties.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, seeing Tom Hanks' anguish, it was clear though. It was genuine. I mean, the character that really woke him up, and that's kind of what he needed. He'd spent the whole episode denying that he had any problem.
Yeah.
But clearly, he had issues.
Yeah, that's the real bottom. I mean,
True.
vanilla extract is.
Yeah,
That's just another day.
right. I mean, to the audience, we had a pretty good tip-off. That and the fact that Ned asked for more beers about 10 times before that.
Right.
But maybe the cherries was the bottom for us, like we could tell. But him hitting Alex for that character, that was it.
Yeah.
Yet to me, it was the high point of the episode. So go figure.
And again, I'm showing my lack of knowledge about AA, but I still don't know if you can just call up AA.
Yeah.
Do they have office? I don't.
Well, I don't think it's referral only. I think maybe.
They must have a number you can find out where meetings are.
Yeah. Well, and I think Steven or somebody has a number written down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, Elise went to the phone book and wrote it down in the middle of all this.
Okay.
And
Okay.
hands it down.
So they were in the phone book.
Yeah, and at least on TV it works that way.
Yeah. Do you think that's why they call themselves AA, so they get like the first listing in the phone book under recovery groups? Kind of like how Auto Place will call themselves A1 Auto. That they thought, well, we could call ourselves Drunks Anonymous, but then we'd be behind everybody else. I'm just asking. It's savvy marketing.
Yeah, I think that's happenstance, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I don't either, but-
Stephen Keaton might not appreciate that idea.
It seems
If you're going to look at AA that way,
yeah.
get the hell out of my
Yeah.
podcast.
Your point is well taken, though. That
Yeah.
there's something that seems bizarre about it, instead of like just going to a meeting or something like
Right,
that.
I think it's...
Which I think would be the normal procedure. You'd find out where a meeting was, and then you'd go to the meeting. He just calls them up on the phone, I guess. But
Right, like calling to say, my TV's broken.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
We'll send someone right over.
maybe it works that way, but
It might.
it's good, and let's hope things worked out. And plus, I guess maybe Ned does settle down there. I mean, that's an interesting thing. Like, we never saw Ned again, but he doesn't have a job. I don't know where he came from for this visit or what he was doing.
He was on a train
Yeah,
because he had train lag.
yeah, that's right.
Track lag, what did he call
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, maybe he stays with the Keatons while he's attending, meetings in that area, and maybe he gets back on his feet and eventually.
Yeah, we don't know where he goes.
It's an interesting quandary. If anybody out there does Family Ties fan fiction, we'd love to hear your take on what happened to Ned Donnelly after this episode.
Yeah, where did he clean up?
Yeah.
Did he wander Ohio?
Yeah.
The cities of Ohio, just.
Did he get stranded on a desert island with only a volleyball to keep him company? Who knows?
Yeah.
One thing I do want to point out, too, is that this kind of struck me. At the beginning, I alluded to it in the little recap there, but he does sing just Uptown Girl to Mallory.
Right.
Just that much, but considering how queasy CBS Paramount Home Video is about music replacements and music rights,
Yeah.
I'm almost surprised that they didn't pull that episode or replace it or something like that, because they're so over the top sometimes about removing shows or editing.
Yeah.
Like the Odd Couple DVDs are butchered because of any musical references, including some that they probably did own the rights to or were public domain. So thank goodness they didn't pull the trigger on this, because not only is Tom Hanks saying that to Mallory, just he's saying something about, how he's kind of teasing her a little bit about being a fashion plate or whatever. But,
Yeah.
It's a good thing we have this episode, one of the best Family Ties episodes, and apparently intact on DVD and streaming.
Yeah. Now, he doesn't really hit the melody at all. He hits a melody. It's
Yeah, it's enough to suggest the song.
Right.
Maybe it's plausible deniability or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah. Well, it could be. And knowing Tom Hanks, he probably did that on purpose. He did just enough to not get anybody in trouble, but enough to get across the joke.
Yeah. But, he has a TV relationship with Billy Joel, too.
He has a TV... yes, well, with the theme song to Bosom Buddies,
Yeah.
which was edited, I believe, on the DVDs and later
Wow.
edited in syndication. They replaced the original theme, My Life, with like a knockoff version or just like an instrumental version. So,
Yeah.
And Bosom Buddies is a CBS home video distributed show.
That's right. I mean, I think maybe I remember hearing him talk about that. That he had some sort of Paramount TV. I don't know if he had a contract with them or what, but I think he guested on a lot of Paramount shows.
Yeah, he was on Happy Days.
Happy Day. Yeah. Kind of like waiting for Bosom Buddies to get off the ground or something.
And I'm sure it took a long time to get a show like Bosom Buddies with such an intricate, that intricately plotted and conceived show. No wonder he had to wait years for them to finally get that premise fine-tuned.
Right.
So yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but
well, for a while they were going to live in a hotel or apartment full of old people, and they were going to dress up as old people.
Yeah. Right.
Senior living.
Yeah, and they finally came to their senses and got the element of drag involved.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, Family Ties. I don't know. You have anything else? Anything else to say? I think we can agree it's a great episode. I did watch a lot of Family Ties recently.
Yeah.
As it was expiring from a certain streaming service. I wanted to catch up on some of the episodes, but it seems like every few years I come back to it. Like if it shows up on one of these channels that I was talking about, I'll check it out. And it seems to be always on somewhere.
Right.
But like I said, it doesn't seem to be as huge a success after its initial run as you would think. But it's certainly a memorable show that I think does hold up in its own way.
Yeah.
As does this episode for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, so if you've never seen Family Ties, Say Uncle Season 2, or better yet, the two-part Fugitive episode, and the only reason I say that is because you get to see Tom Hanks in 2 different episodes.
Yeah. And that one might give you a little more of the rest of the family.
Yes.
I would say watch for sure watch Tom Hanks episodes, but then watch some other ones. So you get a full sense of the Family Ties experience.
Right.
You know. You get to see Michael J. Fox be funny.
Yes, you get to see Michael J. Fox enjoy orange juice.
Enjoy orange juice. That family comedy side, that they really love orange juice. Like they always have a big pitcher of orange juice. They're an orange juice family.
They might have some problems being addicted to orange juice, actually.
They might, and I don't know. Maybe are they squeezing it themselves?
Yeah.
Are they buying it and pouring it in that pitcher?
Yeah.
Getting rid of the carton?
At least it's probably running to the store like 3 or 4 times a week. Just to get orange juice, unless they have some way to squeeze it, themselves and generate. They got like an orange grove, like in the backyard or something, an orange tree.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think, by the way, on that desert island scenario for Uncle Ned, it's an island where vanilla grows, and he's just high on vanilla all the time.
Just wandering around.
Beans and
extracting soaking in all that vanilla. It could be.
But then he comes to his senses and he realizes he could turn that into a business.
Yes.
He could turn that island, really, because sometimes there are vanilla shortages, and he could just really. Yeah, he's got an untapped resource.
Corners the market on vanilla.
Yeah. And
then that whole history with Cintron and being VP, youngest VP of a major corporation. Hey, it doesn't mean anything because he gets rich on vanilla.
Exactly.
All you people that write Family Ties fan fiction, we've just given you another idea to wrap up your story. Feel free to use it.
Really, I just want people to write Uncle Ned fan fiction.
Yes, exactly.
I don't need to know what's going on with, Nick and Mallory.
No, or Skippy.
Skippy, period.
I think we'll have to get into Skippy another day.
Yeah.
Let's not sully this Tom Hanks episode with more talk about Skippy, is what I would say.
I agree. Tom Hanks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This episode brought to you by Orange Juice. Great for what ails you, great for comedy timing. This episode also brought to you by Vanilla Extract. Smooth and flavorful to the last drop. This episode also brought to you by Johnny Mathis. His music goes down as smooth as Vanilla Extract. Okay, and in this segment, we take a look at some commercials from the past, from the 70s and 80s. And I think right now we're going to talk about a few ads starring superstar Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis was one of the, this is probably peak TV Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
But 86, 87, he was hired to be a pitchman for, as Bruce sang, forgive me everybody, Seagram's Golden Wine Coolers. Never just Seagram's wine coolers. Bruce was singing it. This was when he was in his Return of Bruno phase. He did the Return of Bruno album where he did, the R&B soul covers and stuff and fancied himself a musician. So
where was he returning from?
Bruno?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure exactly who Bruno was.
Was that
To be
his
honest with
alter
you.
ego or just
Yeah,
his
yeah.
nickname?
It was kind of like, yeah,
You know, people are like, Bruce, that's too short.
yeah.
You need a 2-syllable name.
Right, to be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't understand it, like any of that or exactly because I don't think I watched Moonlighting right away.
mhm.
You know, it was already a thing before I watched it. You know, it just seemed like suddenly Bruce Willis was there
Was there like
in the world,
in the landscape? Yeah.
like these commercials and
Right, right. Okay.
and that, and like, why is he singing all that? What?
Yeah, and he had the Return of Bruno album, and there was like an actual single and a video. He did a cover of Respect Yourself
Yeah.
with like a. See, it's funny thinking about it, but yeah, and so he did quite a series for like I think a year or two, like '86 and '87. A lot of these Seagram's Golden Wine Cooler commercials.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of funny for, I guess, kind of like I don't know, Seagram's wine coolers. It doesn't seem like the most macho product.
And this was sort of the period where wine coolers suddenly appeared too, right?
Yeah, Bartles and James.
Bartles and James.
And it was a big thing.
Yeah.
And I guess Seagram's was going for like this young, cool. So this was, I guess what I was kind of going for was like this was Bruce Willis at the peak of his TV fame, at the peak of kind of being cool, thinking he was cool, and that's one thing we can talk about in these ads.
Yeah.
Is he kind of in on the joke, or does he seriously think that he's Bruno, this like cool musician? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. There's kind of contradictory evidence, I think, in these spots.
Right. So we're going to play the audio for you to hear, but the video, we'll have the YouTube video linked on our website
Right.
blog for you to watch, so you can see all of it in its visual glory.
Yeah, you got to see and hear it,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about it after you get a chance to enjoy the spots like we did.
Right. Okay. So pause, enjoy. Well, we'll pause. You enjoy the audio, and we'll be back in a second.
Hey, me fellas, look here. Seagulls, golden wine cooler, Seagulls, golden wine cooler, it's wet and it's dry. Golden wine cooler, my, golden wine cooler, me and the boys, love all the time. Golden wine cooler, it's wet and it's dry. Golden wine cooler.
It's still a sweltering 92 degrees here in the city and no sign of letting up.
Can't you do something about the heat?
Open your refrigerator.
There's nothing in it.
What do you see?
Seagram's golden wine cooler. How did that get there?
Mr. Seagram put it there. It's wet, and it's dry, and it's Seagram's. Remember?
But I don't like to drink alone. Remember?
But you're not alone.
Use Seagram's Golden Wine Cooler.
Cheers.
It's wet and it's dry.
What would you like?
Well, I don't know. What do I feel like?
Why not try something you've never had before?
Is that a line?
No, it's a drink. Seagram's Golden Wine Cooler. It's wet, it's dry, it's new, and it's Seagram's.
You sound like a commercial.
You buying it?
The drink? Yeah. But not the line.
It's a start.
Use Seagram's Golden Wine Cooler. It's wet and it's dry.
That's a trifecta of Bruce Willis Seagram's ads, and all of them are pretty representative of the whole campaign. These are happen to be some of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick just one. But yeah, so what'd you think, Mike?
Well, the first one is I mean that's the best.
The
I
front
think.
porch.
Yeah, the front porch. He's singing. He's in his Bruno mode. He's got a band. I'm curious about that too. Like if that's his real band or just a band of actors, or they're hanging out. So you got two guys playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You got a guy playing harp.
Yeah.
Because in this kind of music, you don't call it a harmonica.
Yeah,
That's a harp.
The mouth harp. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got a dog,
Right.
and then you got a guy snapping his fingers,
Yeah.
who I'm going to assume is the drummer.
Right, doing percussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dog's not playing any instruments.
No, but he does get a one-on-one
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, so it's like this big spontaneous
Yeah.
performance of this song here.
And Bruce is singing into the bottle like it's a microphone.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It is cool.
Very cool.
Like, I feel like they were jamming
Yeah.
and drinking wine coolers, and he just made up this song on the spot.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression that you're
Yeah.
supposed to get, I think. Yeah.
Right.
And then he's
But
gonna,
he also, like, got into it and, like, is doing stage work.
right, like interacting like with each of the other people in this like impromptu porch band.
Yeah.
He's kind of having a little moment with them as he makes his way across the porch until he makes his way to the dog, and then he kind of closes by singing directly to the dog.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when, I guess you could debate this, like, he's kind of got this smile. It's like in this one, he seems to know that this is goofy.
Right.
He's kind of doing it with a little wink.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're thinking that this is a guy that did an album called The Return of Bruno,
Right.
like an actual album, and, had the nerve to do a cover of Respect Yourself. So
Yeah.
to what extent is he in on it? I don't know.
It's hard to tell with Bruce Willis.
It really is.
Because his natural smile is kind of smirky.
Yeah, I mean, we should emphasize that the way the guy became famous is by being like the cool wise ass in Moonlighting. That was his persona.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it was a postmodern show that was aware of itself. He was aware that he was in a show
That's
a lot of
right.
times. He was talking to the camera, winking to the camera. So, yeah, he's always kind of walking that line.
Yeah. And in this commercial, he's walking that line in a cool, prowling lead singer way.
Yeah, and no, we're saying cool, but I'm kind of saying a little mockingly.
No, I am too.
Okay, just to be clear about
Yeah.
that. I kind of remember. I'm trying to think like how it came across back then, and I think even then it was definitely kind of cause for mockery. I think,
Yeah.
especially stuff like this. It was a little goofy. Even if you kind of wonder though if the bit with the dog is sort of a way to.
Right.
Like a defense mechanism to say, hey, I'm not really taking this that seriously. We
Yeah.
got the dog in there, but yeah, you kind of are taking yourself that seriously. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then the
There's a question too of how can something be wet and dry at the same time?
yeah, that was like the big catchphrase here.
Yeah.
These Seagram ads. It's wet and it's dry.
Right.
Like that's appealing.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
I assume the dry is like a taste thing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm revealing my sort of lack of drinking here. But I've heard of dry, they're dry wines.
Right. Like
So
a martini or
Yeah, it seems like a wrong word to use for a liquid.
yes.
But and I guess the idea of the wine cooler is it's, I don't know, floating in this world between beer and wine or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's not a fine wine.
right. It's sort of an in between. It's sort of like it's sort of a drink for like casual drinkers to not to get a buzz without it being. I don't know. Like back in my day, a wine cooler was cause for mockery itself.
Right.
Not just a commercial, but a guy drinking a wine cooler could be subject to ridicule.
Yeah, like these commercials also seem to be trying to make wine coolers seem manly.
Yeah. Now, it's wet and it's dry was a thing, but there's a lot of these other spots had the slogan was "This is where the fun starts," and there's at least one or two of these ads where Bruce Willis is singing, and like there's a band singing "This is where the fun starts," and the whole thing is like people going out for a night in the town, and like anything can happen with the Seagrams, and kind of making it like a lifestyle thing, not just like kind of a mild drink that you'd be embarrassed to pick up at a party, but like an actual this is a cool lifestyle thing.
Or, you start your night with something light, and the fun starts with a wine cooler.
Right, so it's like a gateway.
It ends with a bottle of vanilla extract.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. To many people, Seagram's wine cooler might not have been that much more potent than a bottle of vanilla extract. But yeah, so I'm not sure, but it's an interesting point you bring. But yeah, I think the front porch one is my favorite of the three.
Yeah. The other two are similar, I would say, and that is Bruce and a woman flirting using wine coolers.
Yeah.
So the first one, you heard. So he's talking to this woman on the phone, like across an urban
Right, it's like
street.
It's an urban city, like apartments. Yeah,
and it's sweltering out.
Right. Like a couple of like tenement, maybe not tenements, but like urban apartments, like right across the way. There's maybe a thin alley or
Some
narrow
neon
alley
sign
between.
flashing.
Yeah.
Kind of a noir.
Yeah, right.
He's in a wife beater.
Yeah, he's almost in his John McClane from Die Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, which these spots, I think Die Hard was just after. He might have been making it, but I don't think it came out until after like a lot of these Seagram ads have been on the air for a while. So it wasn't Bruce Willis, mega movie star just yet.
Yeah. He's also in this one, sensitive Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Way
He's
the
kinda
woman
talking
says,
softer.
yeah, and the woman says, that she's alone, but you're not.
Yeah.
And that. Just
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is like, just his acting style. If he's being sensitive, he talks like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and the woman in the ad is doing a very like coquettish sex kitten kind of voice, She's like it's kind of
southern briefly.
Yeah, kind of exaggerating a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
how did that get there?
Right.
Kind of like, what's a wine cooler? Or almost like, yeah, just open your fridge. What's a fridge?
Yeah.
It was a little much.
Yeah. And now, how did that wine cooler get there?
Mr. Seagram put it there.
Yeah. Who is Mr. Seagram?
He's an enigmatic figure who is mentioned in many of these ads, but
And apparently just goes to people's
yeah, plants one.
houses.
Maybe the twist of all these ads was that eventually was going to be revealed, and I'm totally making this up, but it'd be cool if this happened. Bruce Willis himself was Mr. Seagram. That was like an alter ego he made.
Yeah.
And that he was actually going around planning all these. So whenever he references Mr. Seagram, or,
Yeah.
like, let's do one number for Mr. Seagram, it's actually him. It's like his alter ego.
I can see that. I also think maybe he has some supernatural abilities.
To place wine coolers anywhere at will, or
Like Santa Claus?
hey,
Yeah, I'd like to see that. And like he's in a suit and kind of almost James Bondy at that point.
yeah,
Oh, hey, Bruce. It's not Bruce. I'm Mr. Seagram.
yes. And listeners, you couldn't see the suave eyebrow movement that Mike just did, but it was very circa mid-'80s Bruce Willis, I will say. I would have liked to have seen the campaign go in that direction, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second one was it had an interesting atmosphere, but it's still kind of cheesy.
Yeah. And definitely upped sort of the psychosexual aspects of drinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made it more of like kind of getting back to that, like, hey guys, it's okay to drink wine coolers.
Yeah.
Girls aren't going to think any less of you. And a matter of fact, they might think more of you if you
Yeah.
give them Seagram's wine coolers.
Right.
So, I don't know. This ad might have been successful. I mean, I don't remember hearing a lot about Seagram's wine coolers before these ads, and these ads were everywhere back in the day. So,
Yeah. Plus, it'll still cool you off on a hot day,
yeah,
although still be dry.
yeah, it's wet and it's dry.
That's what.
Yeah, that you're still grappling with that one, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like people don't go to the swimming pool in the middle of summer and like jump back out because it's wet, but it's not dry. Forget
Right,
it.
yeah.
It's just
Or-
all wet.
Stay like. Yeah, the opposite of that. Like one person jumps in, like, oh, come on, jump in. It's dry.
Yeah, right.
It's got a nice dry feel.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe crisp is the word they're looking for, or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
they definitely pushed that it's wet and it's dry thing very hard though.
Right. So now the third one, and if you're looking at the YouTube clip, it spoils it, but it's not just one superstar. It's two.
It is too.
A woman sitting at a bar trying to decide what to drink, and Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
Before she was megastar Sharon
Or she
Stone.
was Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yet you can definitely see something. Just maybe it's retro, it's hindsight, sure, but I mean you can definitely see something in that ad. Like the two of them have chemistry together.
Yeah. And they never did a movie together, did they?
Not that I know of. Not that I can think of.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, so I mean basically
They should do a movie called Missed Opportunity.
missed opportunities. Yeah, romantic comedy.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Kind of maybe, yeah. Like one of those Diane Keaton romantic comedies at this point.
Yeah. But now this ad, it's basically the exchanging kind of romantic comedy sort of banter
Yeah.
over the the wine cooler, and
Right.
she's like saying like, is that a line? And he's like, no, it's a drink, and then he kind of explains it. And to me, I think this is probably the best. This to me is the one spot that I wouldn't laugh at.
Yeah.
It seems like it works well. It does what it does, and I think it's a better representation of Bruce Willis as like David Addison moonlighting. I mean, this seemed to be like pretty genuine all around. I thought the two of them had good chemistry together.
Yeah. But he does. I mean, this is also the one where you can kind of, he's in close up, and he does have that look on his face of like he might be in a joke.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I think this one in the smirk and the thing, and even at the end, like with the punchline, well, it's a start or something. That seems to me like something. That seems to be something straight out of Moonlighting, but not like over the top with it.
Right.
So yeah, I think definitely right. It's sort of like more essential Bruce Willis, that cool thing of definitely being in on the joke, but I think kind of in a good way, and it just seems more sincere than the two. It was just like, maybe this might be oversimplifying, but the first one was Bruno. The second one, it was a little bit Bruno, but the third one was Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And it seemed like this is what you would expect if it was Bruce Willis, doing that era Bruce Willis doing an ad. This seemed more like kind of a more natural thing to do with it. But yeah, it was that was actually a pretty good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to go get a drink?
Sure. You got something that's wet and dry?
I just have vanilla extract.
Well, it'll have to do in a pinch.
Which we have discovered does contain alcohol.
Yes, vanilla extract does have
35% alcohol.
Yeah, now
I don't know what
granted,
that means.
It's in a very small bottle, but yes, what's in there does have alcohol content.
Yeah. Now you know in case you're desperate.
Yeah. if you're desperate for a drink and you don't have a Seagram's handy.
Yeah. They still make Seagram's wine coolers?
I
wine
think
coolers they still make.
Yeah, oh yeah. You
Yeah.
can get wine coolers. There's kind of a trend towards that like hard lemonade kind of thing. It seemed to like kind of fill that spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'd say the mid to upper 80s were the golden era apparently of wine coolers, at least on TV, with the Bartles and James and and Bruno doing the Seagram songs, and this is like a sampling of the Seagram ads, but I'd recommend people check out all of them because they're all pretty entertaining for various reasons.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows. You just drank a whole bottle of vanilla extract. Ned replies,
It's wet